We're talking Nebraska Cornhuskers today on Sharpen the Point. 2024, 7-6, another step in the right direction for Matt Rule. He's going to look to continue that in his third season. Offensive coordinator, he got Dana Holgerson to be continuation from the interim status he had at the end of last year. And then defensive wise, John Butler, he's going to take over. He was promoted from secondary coach after Tony White left for Florida State in that payday. Quarterback wise, Baby Mahomes returns after what was many would consider a disappointing freshman campaign that saw him never throw for over 300 yards in a game with nearly a 1-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio on the year. Raiola gained experience though, and that is the growing pains that they wanted to get through so that he could learn on the field early for a more rapid ascent this year. There were flashes of brilliance. So we know the talent is real, particularly in the Illinois game where he posted a 297 and 3 line against a good Illinois defense. He's the face of the program, and getting to work with Holgerson is really only going to be to his benefit. Jalen Gramstad, he's known affectionately by his teammates as Granddad, will be the backup as the former NAIA star provides a veteran presence to the room. And he's somebody that Raiola leans on to help continue his development and learn from. Running back wise, the room was cleared out with Dante Dowdle going to Kentucky off a 600-yard, 12-touchdown season, and Ramir Johnson plus Gabe Irvin graduating, leaving Emmett Johnson as the sole survivor. Depth is now a big issue, but Johnson did some nice things last year in rushing for nearly 600 yards while adding almost 300 yards receiving. The Wisconsin game is one we can point to for his upside, which saw him have 113 yards on the ground and 85 receiving. I'd expect him to see an expanded role overall and hope that he can find the end zone consistently, as 3 total touchdowns was really a disappointment given the yardage he was able to accumulate. Behind Johnson, there's going to be plenty of competition, but Quentin Ives looks to have emerged with a strong offseason to be the primary backup to begin the year. Ives is a big back at 6'3", 210, capable of handling a heavy workload between the tackles. He's going to be a nice complement to Johnson's style of play. Pass catching wise, both Jamal Banks and Isaiah Nair underwhelmed compared to expectations, continuing years of false optimism in the Huskers wide receiver room. And they're going to be easily replaced by transfer talent that was brought in. Now, is that false optimism? Maybe. But we've continuously thought that year in and year out, and hopefully this is the year it turns around. The additions of Dane Key from Kentucky and Isaiah Hunter from Cal, they're going to hopefully inject some life into the room as the primary outside options in a new look passing attack. Dane Key, he fits the mold of a prototypical X wide receiver with great size at 6'3", and he's got speed to burn. He should slot into that top spot after being productive at Kentucky despite less than stellar quarterback play, as shown by catching only half the targets that went his way last year. Hunter has a similar skill set to Key, and he plays big with his 6'2" frame. He should start opposite of him and play a complementary role as the third target, taking advantage of defenses rolling coverage to the other weapons. Now, the Ja'Cory Barney, he returns to that slot role. He was a nice safety valve underneath option for Raiola on his way to leading the team in catches last year. Barney's a dynamic, shifty weapon who is fast as the wind. He could be the target and reception leader, but I think he's unlikely to lead in yards or touchdowns given his extremely low average depth of target, which was sub 7 last year. By comparison, Key had a double that ADOT at 13.9, which will lead him to more chunk plays, giving him better opportunity for yardage. Beyond the top 3, Janarian Bonner, he looks secure in that 4th spot with Cortez Mills and Isaiah Mosey expected to contribute after making good impressions in the spring. Both Mills and Mosey are freshmen who look like the future of the room. The staff kind of hopes that those guys can get some experience with an eye towards being future contributors. Thomas Fedone was a solid all-around contributor at tight end last year, but with him gone and his backup bolting for Texas A&M, former quarterback Heinrich Harburg, he could be in line to grab some of the receiving work given his size and athletic profile while understanding what to look for in coverage, making it so that he can find open holes in defenses because he kind of knows from the opposite end what a quarterback's looking for. Luke Lindenmeyer, he should get the bulk of the snaps as he's the steadiest presence at the position with his combination of blocking and receiving skills being the best in the room. Offensive line-wise, this unit is the biggest question mark for me heading into the season. As last year, Raiola was under a ton of pressure, causing errant throws and turnovers when he wasn't being sacked or put on his butt. There were a lot of bumps and bruises in the spring with this group, but it looks like they emerged fairly well. The left tackle spot got a huge upgrade with the addition of Elijah Pritchett from Alabama. He was a highly touted recruit, started 11 games for Alabama last year, and the staff hopes to be able to help him unlock that potential and really take the next step into being a very talented player. The middle of the line is going to consist of returners Henry Lutovsky, a 15-game starter at guard, and Justin Evans, who started 18 games at guard, moving to center. While the other guard spot is going to be Rocco Spindler from Notre Dame. He was a big addition after starting 23 games for the Irish, including the national championship last year. He immediately came in and he's taken on a leadership role. I love the middle of that line. There's a heavy competition for this right tackle spot with Gunnar Gotchula. He started 9 games at left tackle as a redshirt freshman last year. And Tyler Knack, who made big strides in the offseason, along with Turner Corcoran, who has started 34 games, mostly at left tackle, but he's had injuries derail his career. One of those guys needs to emerge. Defensive line-wise, there's an enormous void along the line left by the departures of Ty Robinson, who had 7 sacks, Nas Hushmeyer, Jamari Butler, he went to LSU, and pass rush specialist James Williams, who went to Florida State with his defensive coordinator. The concern here is a significant lack of proven depth, but the top of the room looks to be pretty settled with Riley Van Poppel, Cam Linhart, and Elijah Judy leading the way. Van Poppel and Linhart are not surprises whatsoever, while Judy looks ready to contribute after reshaping his physique in the offseason. Keona Davis and Williams Nwari, he went to Missouri. It comes from Missouri. He's a former 5-star, Nwari is. They're going to have a chance to break through as well, but they have yet to really reach that black shirt status that we're looking for. They look like big-time athletes with massive potential, even though they have yet to realize it. Linebacker-wise, Nebraska and linebackers, they're great. This is another unit that lost several contributors to graduation and the portal, but could easily be considered the top position group on the roster. The jack position has a ton of competition and depth with Dasan McCullough. He comes over from Oklahoma, and Willis McGahee, who had a breakout season last year, being the prime candidates there. Vincent Shavers, he really improved throughout his first season, becoming one of the better backers late in the year. But the main guys look to be Marquez Watson-Trent and Javen Wright. Watson-Trent is an absolute tackling machine who comes over from Georgia Southern. He always has a nose for the football. Wright, meanwhile, is an experienced defender who has battled plenty of medical issues in his time, but he can be a true difference maker whenever he's healthy and on the field. Defensive back-wise, the DB, it was the weakest of the units a year ago. Everyone returns, though, except for the nickel, Isaac Gifford, who really can be replaced, making this a deep unit with experience. Marquez Buford, he's going to move back to safety full-time after splitting time at corner last year due to the injuries. Malcolm Herzog, he's going to man that nickel spot. And then Deshaun Singleton's going to join them at safety as the leader of the secondary after notching 18 starts previously. The corners look like they're going to have some sort of rotation given the talent they possess with each of Sierra Wright, Andrew Marshall, who comes over from Idaho. He was a first-team all-conference guy in the Big Sky. And Donovan Jones, Bly Hill, and Amari Sanders. Wright and Marshall have the inside track to be the starters, but the youngsters are really making a name for themselves here. Looking at the schedule and outlook for this year, on offense, Raiola needs to make a big leap. And he should have much better weapons at his disposal to do so, but he can't make throws if he's under duress constantly. The room it may not be great, but ultimately Holgorsen is a heck of a coach, so I would buy into this offense taking a leap in year 2 here. Basically, it's 1.5 full offseason with Holgorsen. You got to feel like they're going to make a real good impression here. The defense is normally nasty, and there's no reason to expect anything different. The defensive line is the main concern on it. while the back seven should continue to produce at a really high level, there's plenty of talent on hand for a continuance of the black shirts keeping the opposing offenses pinned down, though. Schedule-wise, Cincinnati win. I think Sorsby's a good quarterback. He's just not capable in this situation to handle that. Akron win. Houston Christian, I say who? Like, I don't know that team, and I know most of FCS even. Win. Michigan. You know, you're coming in 3-0, high, get Michigan at home. I think the Bussin' Bowl's in play to win it, but I'm going to lean loss, and I'd predict loss until they can take down a big fish finally. They need that breakthrough win. That could be it, but we'll see. Michigan State win, at Maryland win, at Minnesota. I think that's a loss, but they're breaking in a young quarterback, a freshman. So that's going to go a big way. If Raiola develops, that game is available for a win. But Minnesota's run game and their defense is going to be stout. Northwestern win. USC, I would lean loss, but I could really be swayed depending how they're playing with those Michigan and Minnesota games to win that USC game. I think it's possible. I think it's a coin toss, though. At UCLA, win, and then two tough games to finish out. At Penn State, that's a loss, and then at home against Iowa, I would lean loss, but there's realms where you can get a win there. You know, the hallmark of Rule teams has been a continual progression of play on the field and the win-loss record. I expect something similar to occur with the stability of the quarterback position and playmakers they added around him. They should get off to a hot start, but it picks up heavy late. 7 wins looks like the floor with the upside for double digits if Raiola can take a massive leap forward. Rule has had all offseason a quiet confidence about himself for a reason.